Well, happy Friday, everybody. I'm Erica Lukes here on Expanding Frontiers, and I want to wish each and every one of you a very happy New Year's. I know that 2024 is going to be an exceptional year, not only hopefully for myself, but for all of you. And I wish you the best, you and your families and your loved ones the best. And here is to also making sure that we continue to create a community to spread the word about good research and ethical behavior. And so those are my thoughts and blessings for 2024. I want to thank Mario for always being around and supporting the show, as he has done for many, many years. I want to thank Peter for getting the word out on social media. I want to say hi to my friends in chat really quickly. So Bill, it's nice to see you. Ken, Amy, Michael, Jack, and Jim, and Jay Bench. Sorry, I just need to go through this little list here. And good morning, and thanks for staying up, Jim. You are seriously a trooper for doing that. And if I haven't mentioned you, just know that I am thinking of you, and I appreciate you very, very much. I have a lot in store for you for 2024. And first of all, I want to start with the latest drop from Expanding Frontiers research. It just came out this afternoon, and it is entitled FOIA Request Obtains FBI Records Responsive to the Galileo Project. So if that isn't enough to kind of spark your interest, I would say I don't know what is. So definitely head over to Expanding Frontiers Research.org to check out our latest work, and I want to congratulate Jack Brewer again for always doing exceptional research. So it is with great pleasure tonight, and you've seen me over the years kind of go through this process of finding areas of interest and then having the rug pulled out from underneath me and finding out that there's actually nothing of merit to specific claims that are being made. And at some points in time, I think especially being a woman, it's been it could be very isolating to do this. You are the target of a lot of online hate and attacks. And it has been really cool to see this online community growing over the past few years, especially the past year, I will say, and to see people like Emily out there, a very, very strong woman who has incredible talent to do the wonderful show that she does. She's been on my show, Emily Reads, and I just want to, I'll post her link, but she's so much more talented, obviously, in producing, and she actually knows how to unmute her mic. I'm going to say this, but it's like seeing people like Emily out there and seeing the wonderful people here in chat and knowing that we all care about the subject, that we care about integrity, that we care about getting good information. Like, to me, that is the greatest gift and the coolest thing that I can even imagine. I mean, I really, really feel that way. We have a great collective here. And again, Bill, Poland, and Venus, I want to give you guys a shout out. Hi, Arlene. And so it's just, yeah, it's really cool. And we're going to keep it going this year. So without me, further babbling on, because, I kind of tend to roll that way. And sometimes it's probably good my mic is muted, but that's okay. That's another thing. Here we have Tanner Boyle. And so I want to give a thank you for coming. I'm super stoked. So it's nice to see you. Yeah. And I want to just say that I have been following your work. You've got an exceptional blog that you've been doing, and you really hit some of these points about people in the subject that we're going to talk about, dig a little bit deeper in tonight. But first of all, I want to just have, if you don't mind, giving us a brief intro and like a rundown of your life, age 1 to now. Good luck.
Well, where I would put myself first is like in the library as like a kid, and I come across like Jim Mars's Alien Agenda or something like that. And then I've been stuck in that space ever since then. I'm still here, apparently. I have like degrees in English, so I've always been into reading and writing, but I've never quite left the fringe space, even though academia doesn't like the fringe space as much. So now I just do this as a little hobby on the side, and it's been really fun. I've been writing Getting Spooked for a little over a year now, and that's where we are today.
And I will say that I appreciate the way you put things together. And Getting Spooked is, I mean, all of you, I would definitely recommend checking it out, but also just becoming a member, which I did. And I'm very excited. I subscribed. And so I get to read all of this great content. But I love, the way that you're talking about, parapolitics, the paranormal, and all of these things, and weaving all of these issues that to me are very important, and I think most people tend to miss when they get into this subject, or the paranormal subject. Sometimes it can be very black and white for people, and it's not a black and white. These aren't black and white subjects.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's how my opinions have been shaped slowly. Because it used to be like, oh, I've read, well, like I said, Alien Agenda or something like that. And now I'm like, oh, ancient aliens are real, yada, like, uh, but it's through like close reading is probably how I would describe it, that you can kind of come to notice certain details that aren't reported on, aren't covered uh, with regularity. Um, and yeah, that's sort of what I try to do. I try to source everything really well. I'm 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 a big citation freak, so my footnotes are sometimes half the length of my article. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but
Yeah, that's a great thing.
yeah.
I love it. And so, so you've always had an interest in this. And then Jim Mars, let's talk about Jim Mars, because he was an interesting fellow. I did interview him a few years back,
Oh,
and I need
did
to go
you?
back and listen to that. Yeah, so that was a long time ago, but very interesting fellow.
Yeah. I gotta say, I lost track of him after 2000. I want to say 2008 was the last I really looked into Jim Mars. But what's he doing these days? Because I
He
have no
passed
idea.
away a few years
Oh,
ago.
did he? Oh well,
So,
rest in peace.
yeah.
Because you got me where I am today, I guess I could say.
And so, what was it that appealed to you about him?
Oh well, I was a kid in the public library, and Alien Agenda had this nice shiny gray cover. Um, and I don't know, it was like stories that young me thought were true. Made our world seem more fantastic. Uh, Nowadays, I'd probably respect him more for like Crossfire on the JFK assassination. Um, but yeah, he actually came up in the. I was doing research into the Gulf Breeze Six, and one of the Gulf Breeze Six eventually was part of like a research group that Jim Mars was a member of, sort of like an informal research group. Um, some wacky claims came out of that research group. I don't know how, like, I don't know. Removed from the entire Gulf Breeze Six story, it's bizarre to say. So I'll,
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because there are people. I mean, a lot of people that I see. And hey, Steve, nice to see you, and Tom. There are a lot of people that are watching the show for the first time, and are, because I have my friends. I'll say, hey, watch the show, and they will say to me, okay, we're getting into this show, but we don't have no clue what you guys are talking about. And so, if
yeah.
you don't mind, for those who are new to the show or new to the subject, will you just talk a little bit about the Gulf Breeze Six?
Yeah, so the Gulf Breeze Six are they were six Army intelligence analysts stationed in Augsburg, Germany, and they, I mean, to cut the long story short, they go absent without leave at some point in summer 1990, and um, it's sort of a big scandal. Uh, they wind up in Gulf Breeze, where one of them has a romantic interest, and another one of them forms a romantic interest. Part of the reason why the story is so interesting to me is because it's like 6 different people, and they all seem to have different motivations. But at a baseline, they were all listening to messages channeled from a Ouija board, um, that told them that the world was ending, time of tribulation was coming, and they fled. They were going to attempt to go further west, but were eventually arrested in Gulf Breeze, which of course was going through like the Ed Walters debacle at that time.
That was a
Um,
fun one.
yeah, Jack's done a ton of good work on just a bunch of different characters in the Gulf Breeze UFO scene. Um, and the Gulf Breeze Six wind up interacting with some of those characters. Um, yeah. Uh, Eventually, the guy who seemed like the leader was a guy named Vance Davis, and he eventually wrote a book about it, um, where it is made clear that it was like Ouija board messages. But I've always wanted to hear from like the other 5, and as far as I know, like none of them have really talked about it at all. They sure as heck won't talk to me. Um, I did find that one of them had written like a young adult novel, um, and I don't think many people had known that. It was on like an above top secret post, but yeah, I've read it, and it's a really interesting. It's an interesting book because it kind of like matches some of the themes of that group going AWOL, like visions of revelations and the apocalypse and
Wow.
angels and demons and that kind of stuff.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Wow, I think I've got like 1,000 books like that right behind me.
Yeah.
But I should add that to my collection. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he was a first time author, and I had a good time with it. Of course, like for me, I almost feel bad because my reading of it's like very skewed by like the Gulf Breeze Six, and he's probably putting it out there, and he wants it to be viewed completely separately. And I'm not the person that's going to be able to do that.
Right. Yeah, and above top secret, I could see Tom X in the chat just saying that. And I remember going into above top secret, and that was a very interesting place to go.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
I've been a bit of a lurker for probably a decade now. Uh, don't post that often, but every once in a while there will be some really like good stuff, and at least some interesting like ideas. Uh, I will say it can definitely breed like the more paranoid, fantastical crowd, but it's it sort of evens out, I would say.
It's definitely interesting. I've popped in and out of there over the years, and it's you do see some people who are prevalent in the topic, using pseudonyms, of course, that have been writing, threads on there for a long time, and it is you wonder, what above top secret is really about, and who's behind it, and all of that stuff. Do you know much about the origins of above top secret?
I definitely have no idea. Um, I remember like the process of registering for above top secret, if I recall correctly, because I it's been a while since I did that, but it was a little different from your average forum because it like required either like a Facebook or a Google account. That might have changed, but I did find it strange that you had to be connected to that account uh, to
Hmm.
sign up I don't know. Maybe someone in chat can confirm whether that's still the case or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure somebody could. I know I can see Tom's comment on that, just saying it's kind of become a de facto form for QAnon.
Oh,
So
that does make sense.
so maybe Michael Flynn's in there and all the boys doing their thing, but it's definitely interesting. And so let's get. Did you ever? I want to get back to Jim Marrs just for a minute, but did you ever find? Was there ever a point in time when you were reading his work that you thought there might be an agenda to his narrative, or he wasn't on the right path with his research?
Well, when you ask that question, I'm reminded of like I heard rumors, and Lord knows I don't want to like gossip or anything like that, but I remember there being like sort of impressions in the UFO space that Jim Marrs had started like running interference for the Church of Scientology. And, I'm not going to say that's true. I just remember hearing it. Do you remember that?
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't. But I mean, it's hard because there's so many colorful people to follow.
Yeah.
When you go down this rabbit hole and things, I don't remember that. But I mean, honestly, I could say that, I mean, nothing shocks me in this topic. He was obviously very conspiratorial with with what he was putting forward, and whether some of that's true, whether it's not, whether it was kind of helping create the generation of Oliver Stones and some of that, which is he's a real character in and of himself. But it's just, I don't know. He was a fascinating man. I need to go do a little deep dive into him sometime.
I was definitely thinking about it after he came up as interacting with Vance Davis, and so sort of a Southwest conspiratorial exopolitics group. It's definitely interesting. I don't even know if that's true or if Vance Davis was just saying that. I genuinely don't know.
Well, then I will make it my mission to spend a little time like this week, maybe just an hour, to find out a little bit more about that, because it's, again, it's like people, these characters come in and out, and then you hear references to them over the years. And he is one that had a very interesting niche in all of this. So I'll have to look more into him.
Well, sure. And just so much of this is like word of mouth. It's really interesting. A lot of it doesn't get written down, or it's just like an offhand comment somewhere, and you're like, oh, that sort of recontextualizes everything.
And luckily, though, now we've got, I mean, one good thing about the internet is a lot of this is actually out there forever, unlike some of the things that I have with the archive here, and I want to just kind of, again, talk about that for a second and just say how important it is to make sure, if you've got holdings like this, that you're getting them to a good place where people don't have an agenda to prove UFOs are real, but they have an agenda to make sure that they are preserving history in its entirety and not cherry picking things. So just had to throw that little bump in there. So.
Oh, yeah. No, that's good. And, Expanding Frontiers is doing really good work from what I can see as far as archiving goes.
Thank you.
So much in the UFO space, even just paranormal broad, is not archived.
Yeah, and it's a whole another animal, but it's been so much fun. I love it. And Jack and Barry have been troopers. It's amazing, so I appreciate all the help. And it's fascinating. And if you ever, make it to Salt Lake, make sure you come see the archive.
Oh, absolutely. I can't think of a reason I'd be in Salt Lake, but that would be reason for a trip.
Well, I mean, that's nice. I can honestly say the same thing. I need a vacation is what I'm thinking. Mama needs to get out of Salt Lake.
Yeah.
For sure. in more than one way. So I keep threatening I'm going to go over, to England and visit Wales and just have a little and Scotland and things. And so maybe one of these days, maybe this year, I'm going to will it into existence. So if I just
Oh
say
yeah.
it, it's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I think there is something to that. Like I don't necessarily believe in manifesting, but I think it sort of changes your mind if you just say this is happening, and then you're more prone to do it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Even though I wouldn't, not quite on the secret page and things like that. It's very interesting. And so, and thank you for letting me go back to Jim Mars. Thanks for talking about the Gulf Breeze 6. What over the years, how have you, from like a younger person that was interested in the subject, how have you changed your beliefs or opinions about what you were reading and being told from other experts in the field?
So I kind of started just from the uh, more like Fortean, like, oh, this is fun. This may not necessarily be true, but I'm having a good time. It's like reading science fiction or something. And slowly I've come more to the realization that the way these narratives are like driven is very intentional. It's very impactful. Just in the way the whole like the current like disclosure movement is working. Like that alone could have made me change my mind, but I'd say it's been a process over the past, uh, I want to say 5-ish years. I read Mark Pilkington's Mirage Men, which was hugely formative. I read Jack's The Graves Have Been Framed, which was really big. Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of just finding the smart people in the field and then listening to what they have to say. And once I had gotten to a place where I felt a little more confident in my beliefs, and my own like research capabilities, I felt like the work improved. Um, just being thorough, uh, digging into things that seem interesting, and usually you'll get something.
Isn't it? It's fast. I mean, it's just like I literally, like, well, not every day. I've been slowing down in my old age, but like I'll go back and just grab a handful of files and then just
Mhm.
sit there and read and scan and whatever. But it's like there is never a lack of something that you could seriously dig into, and
Oh yeah.
it's fascinating to me. Like I don't, I can understand how like an outsider looking in the UFO world would be like, okay, peace out. I'm totally not down with this. But like when you understand the importance of the history of the subject,
Mhm.
not because little green men are real, but just
Yeah.
the way that people are communicating, the way information is traveling, the way the intelligence community interacts with things and seeds ideas and people's personal, beliefs and things. It's just a really, it will never stop fascinating me
Oh yeah.
as a subject.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, kind of as you were saying, I've been reading Jacques Vallée's journals. I made it my goal to just read them from start to finish, even though that's like way too much text. But I've run into something at least every 100 pages that I can spend like hours researching. Like there'll be something, and I'll be like, oh, there's something interesting here if I just chisel away at it a bit. And yeah, it seems like everything's like that in this space. It always connects to something outside of it. It's really interesting. It's kind of like a mirror of the culture, but kind of more like a funhouse mirror.
You ain't kidding on that one.
Yeah,
It's, yeah, seriously, clowny, fun house mirror.
yeah.
For sure. Yeah, and I've got to just ask you because I mean, Jacques Vallée, everybody gets into the subject and I mean, does this deep dive into him. He's a fascinating person. He's had a long life and interacted with some very interesting people. And so, I mean, what are your thoughts, especially now since you've seen what's happened with kind of the Trinity debacle?
Yeah, yeah.
Have your opinions changed about him? How do you hold him? I mean, how do you see him as a person?
I would say it's like a complex mixture of feelings. Um, the Trinity thing was not pretty. I'll just say that much. And I don't necessarily think some of his recent engagements have been I, like I mean, I guess he's kind of always been like this, engaging with people where that make you go, what are you talking to them for? But like at the same time, he's been just such a formative writer for me, because like love him or hate him, he's maybe the best writer in the UFO space, just from like a prose style and kind of like interest level, maybe. At least on the believer side of things, um, is how I'll preface that. Um, so I don't know. He always has like interesting thoughts, but there is just like constant engagement with like the military, intelligence, like grifters, it's hard to know exactly what his own. He's also just like very opaque about like his own beliefs. Uh, Yeah, and I mean, I guess in some ways that's the point. He's a bit of a spiritual seeker, which I respect to a degree. Um, yeah, I'm not I guess that's where I'd put it. I couldn't tell you like this is what I deem Jacques Vallée. It's more like, oh, he's interesting. There's some good, some bad.
Thank you. I mean, he's a very complex individual who's had a lot of interactions over the years with questionable people. Let's be real. His core group of friends, Hal Puthoff and Robert Bigelow and those, Kit Green are very questionable people, especially in the UFO subject. And so I found myself over the years kind of reading him and thinking, here's this high, I'm exalting this figure because he is the last great person in the UFO subject. And he's, look at what he's accomplished and all of these things. And as I've grown and maybe kind of learned more, informed my opinions through my life experiences
Mhm.
with involving specific things, I think we all probably know what that would be. I just have stepped back from him a little bit and asked, like, what, have his opinions changed over the years? They don't, to me, seem like they have. I think he's
Mhm.
always been promoting the same types of things, and it's always this kind of runaround.
Yeah,
It's a lot like, what do we have at Skinwalker Ranch? Do we have, is today it's a UFO, tomorrow it's a Bigfoot, and then the next day it's like the ball is
yeah.
always moving, almost
Mhm.
like with this Disclosure Project or whatever was happening today in that sphere. It's like, okay, this date is going to be a big date, but wait a minute, no, sorry, we actually meant in 2039. So it's like the ball is always right there and almost tangible, and then boom, it's gone. And so I it he's it's just a very fascinating, he's a very fascinating figure. He has almost, in my opinion, probably the most cult like following in
Oh,
the subject.
undoubtedly. They it seems like nowadays they almost like roll him out there just to be like, see, Jacques Vallée says I'm on the right track, you know? Like, I guess you'd call him an elder statesman at this point.
Right. And I remember, speaking of Scientology, and I want to go back to, just because I saw Tom's comment and he was talking about Battlefield Earth with Ron Hubbard and Jim Mars, and I totally forgot about that. So thanks for reminding me of that Jim Mars moment with Hubbard and all of that, promoting that. But I watched an old documentary, and it was about Scientology. And I remembered, I've talked a little bit about this on my show before, but I remember seeing a few moments on screen where there was a room of people and they were sitting across from each other doing kind of like the clearing or whatever they do in Scientology. And Jacques Vallée was in one of the portions of film, and I just thought,
Really?
okay, oh, yep.
I guess that makes sense. He's buddies with a lot of former Scientologists.
Yeah, so it was very interesting. And, he's such a distinguishing gentleman. He has those piercing blue eyes and very sharp features and things. So it's just, it was very interesting to see him. And I don't know if anybody's ever actually asked him about a comment on that.
Yeah, it's his friendship with Pudov is odd. That sort of appeared in my Gulf Breeze 6 research, because that's the only moment in the journals that Vallée comments on the Gulf Breeze 6 is he asks Pudov what he thinks about it, and Hal says some crap about like, oh, they weren't really headed for Colorado. They were actually headed to my remote viewing facility in Texas, and they were going to steal our hard drives and disprove remote view. And it's like, that's the only place I've ever read that. There's no evidence that that's what was going to happen. And I found Vallée not pushing back against that kind of insulting, but that's another thing with him, is he doesn't ask questions that you would expect him to ask, and it's almost like a practiced method at this point. Like, I'm just gonna let him talk. I'm not gonna ask questions on that.
Yeah, well, I think that they have all kind of developed this shtick, over the years. They've each got a role. What bird am I? I mean, I'm going to start a little group, maybe a fish, or I don't know what sort of fruit. Maybe I could have a group of, I'm a banana. I mean, it's so like. Anyway, the whole thing, when I step outside of it and look at some of these things that, like, maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe even I had an interest in, thought it was like relatively like intriguing. It's like, oh my Lord, look at the falcon and, all of this nonsense. And now I just go, oh, wow. Did I seriously believe that? And I think each of those people have got a role that they've played. And at the end of the day, I would be shocked if they're not sitting in the back of some Las Vegas casino, having I don't know what, some sort of Moscow mule and cheersing each other and just saying, oh, can you believe the public actually bought this nonsense? I mean, so those are my jaded opinions. Jaded and
well, it's incredibly hard to not get jaded when it comes to UFOs.
Yeah, it's a very curious topic. Sometimes I just think it's not for. I mean, it's not the healthiest of topics if you're not in a good place when you enter into the subject. But
what I've done is I've stopped following most like UFO based accounts, except for people I really like on my Twitter, and I just sort of view that completely separately. I look at the hashtags if I'm in the mood, but it's like I try to separate it from my personal life as much as I can. it's not working. It still bleeds in, but
I was gonna say, but it's hard though when you've got like this passion.
yeah,
I mean, it's just I think it's nice to have somebody that you can relate with, and talk
mhm.
to, and because most 99.9% of the people in the world do not get where we are coming from. You know
Oh,
what I mean? It's a
yeah,
very try as I
yeah,
might, over the years. It's like, oh well, don't you think that, that people are like, what? Okay, no, but
yeah.
humor
How
me.
how do you handle like when someone completely outside of UFOs comes up to you and asks you about UFOs, and let's say they have no idea you're interested in them, uh, like, and the topic comes up organically. How do you handle that situation?
Well, I have to like go stand in the corner and breathe for 5 seconds and try to center myself before, I go off the farm on this one. But I think, I definitely say that it's a fascinating topic, and it is a topic that, at the end of the day, there's not been a lot of credible. There's not been anything substantial put
Yeah.
forward to the public, and but it is an interesting subject. And I grew up on the X Files, and so I
Oh,
think all of these, and I saw your Fox Mulder,
oh,
comments and stuff. And I think, that was a sexy, exciting, fun thing in that time period. It still is, to watch this duo with sexual tension and going out and
mm,
trying to explore all of these mysteries. And so there is something. We've grown up, and
yeah,
how many generations now that have grown up on this topic, or watching the War of the Worlds and different things. And so I don't know, it's fascinating. But
yeah. No, it
that's a
absolutely.
long-winded answer. But at the end of the day, show me the money, show me the proof. Oh, sorry, you can't. A nice
Yeah,
job trying to get me to believe your little 480-acre ranch is worth something.
it's still kind of fun just to watch like the wheels spin, I guess. As the old John Lennon song goes. Um, but yeah, it is like ultimately disappointing, I guess. It's fun and you meet cool people along the way, but you know, it's nerdy. There's not going to be any super great resolution to it.
It is super nerdy. I will say, like, if you go to the MUFON conference, I mean, you can't get
Oh
much
yeah,
more, it's like, well, anyway, I mean, it is totally nerdy. I get this about myself. I've always been a freaking huge nerd. I'm
yeah.
totally down with it. Back in the day, like
Oh yeah.
I've got this. I need to find this. I'm just thinking of me and my super nerddom. I am in grade school. I was a foot taller than any of the guys,
Hmm.
and I had just braces and glasses like this big. I mean, it was so hot, not really at all. And I would challenge all the guys, after school. It's meet me on the track. I'm gonna kick your butt. And I had like, the cornrows and bows, and I would wear like my Mean Joe Green jersey and
Okay.
Levi's 501s with my Vans. This is like telling you guys how old I am. But I mean, it was just like I am. So you talk about like a nerd girl. I own it and I wear it
Yeah.
proudly.
No, it's a good thing at this point. I think nerds have gotten their due finally as far as like pop culture goes. Maybe I hope maybe.
Yep, I know. I think, yes, nerds unite right here on Expanding Frontiers. And I better just say, Jim, I thank you for remembering, Jim and Jess, just saying that my grandmother did make me a gnome costume. As
Aw.
oh no, it's not really an eye. It's like, oh God, yeah. But it
So
happens.
some of my you know some of my best friends love gnomes. So uh, I don't know. I think gnomes are a great Halloween costume idea.
I really, because I love Halloween, but I was going to, like, every year I'm like, this is the year I'm going to relive the gnome.
Yeah.
And like, I just, something within me, it's like, oh my Lord, the trauma of standing in the garden, doing the little thing and trying to reenact a gnome when you're a foot taller than the guys in class. It's just no. But anyway.
Oh, they made you act out being a lawn
Well, yeah,
gnome.
well, maybe I was just feeling the gnomeness taking over me and stuff. But yes, I was in the garden posing.
Well, it's a good photo shoot idea, I guess.
I think that my grandmother was just sitting there going, I mean, just like, look at what little Erica's doing now. That's so cute.
Oh, all right. Here, I'll even the playing field.
Okay.
I went for Halloween as a Girl Scout one year, and pictures do exist of it, but
Oh,
they will never be seen ever.
are they like, was this on film back in the day?
Uh,
You're too young for that.
it's on a digital camera for sure.
Oh,
Yeah. My legs looked pretty good, but I don't think I want people to see that.
I mean, nowadays somebody could just, make a little thing up and you could be a Girl Scout. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think I love Girl Scouts. I think that I love Girl Scout cookies. Probably too many of them. I'm glad I haven't seen any for a while, but Mama has New Year's resolutions too. So
Yeah.
we're,
Oh, I meant to ask you, are you feeling better?
thank you
Okay.
for asking me. I feel still pretty down
Yeah.
in the down in the dirt, but it's okay. There's so much going around right now, so I hope you stay healthy.
And believe it or not, I still haven't caught it at all somehow. I'm one of the last people of my kind I know.
Yes, yes, I hear you on that. I was pretty lucky for a long time too, but it's just nasty. So,
Yeah.
and Emily would like you to post the pictures. Ha, ha, ha. I can like,
I don't have
no.
them. My mom has them somewhere, and she's sworn to silence, so
What a nice
probably
mom.
not going to happen. Yeah.
Okay, so and thank you for going off on that tangent with me. It's fun to laugh and just talk about some of those goofy moments as kids and things in our formative years. But I got a question a little while back, and Peter, thank you. I do look at your questions, and so I want to make sure that I'm addressing this. But you have done some blog posts about Ingrid Cold,
Oh,
and so talk a little bit again for people that don't know that story. Talk a little bit about that, and then your blogs, your research on that person, him,
yeah.
it.
So, Injured Cold was an extraterrestrial entity who is met by a West Virginian man named Woodrow Derenberger on the side of a highway back in 1966, I think was the year. It's right around the time of like the Mothman flap. So Injured Cold like appears in the Mothman movie, completely different than what the actual reports are like, but he's in the movie. Um, I've wound up doing a series of articles on Woodrow Derenberger and Injured Cold because every time I read like any sort of um, any sort of narrative about the encounter, I was always like shocked by like just how like mundane it was. It was like he just saw a guy on the side of the highway and he looked completely human. Couldn't tell, like you couldn't tell if he was an alien in person. And he was eventually taken on journeys to Injured Cold's home planet to Lanulos, which sounds exactly like Earth. It's got Earth-like buildings, Earth-like culture, except everybody's a nudist. It's just like super mundane. And I was kind of shocked by it. So I wound up writing this series considering like whether or not it was some kind of like psychological operation, because as far as like hoaxing goes, he didn't really see much from it other than like a bit of publicity. It really just like ruined his career as a salesman. Um, and uh, yeah, like I would think you could make up better stories if you were going the hoax routes. You wouldn't make everything sound just like, oh, it's just like here, except nobody's wearing clothes.
But I mean, compare that to like a dino beaver.
Oh,
I mean, I don't know. What's a better route?
yeah,
Nudist or
that's
dino
true.
beaver?
You know, I kind of like Dino Beaver. It kind of sounds like a minor league baseball mascot. Uh, I don't think you could make Injured Cold that, but because he's just. But I was also shocked because Injured Cold's been turned into like this like urban legend, where it's like the grinning man, and uh, as he's described by like Darren Berger and even Keel, the like he doesn't have like an inhuman smile or anything like that. He was literally just friendly.
Yep.
uh, so I think like the whole urban legend thing super bizarre. It's been connected to another case in New Jersey that appears to have like no relevance to the story at all. Um, I don't know. I've just found it all very strange. Uh, Darren Berger had some employment that was interesting, like at Union Carbide, the chemical company, in the midst of a strike. And I, I, I sort of, Andrew Colvin's another researcher who suggested it, but I've been trying to like mine it a little further to see if there's like any hint that some like weird uh, human factor was at work uh, in Woodrow Derenberger's story. And it does become hard because at a certain point, it seems like Derenberger's just like telling people what they want to hear. But the initial encounter is pretty interesting just because uh, he was clearly like scared out of his wits. He like, yeah, his wife sort of vouched for him, and I think she eventually divorced him and ran off with one of the UFO investigators, which is
Oh,
like that's
Lordy, Lordy.
yeah, never join up with a UFO
Oh,
investigator. That's
Lord.
your first problem. Um,
They're a sexy lot, man. I mean, I can see it. Yes.
uh, but yeah, so that's sort of what I've done with Injured Cold. The series of articles isn't quite done because I was gonna do like a refutation of like different how Injured Cold's been presented in like other media as like this scary Slender Man type guy. And I've just kind of wanted to dispel that, and also talk about like John Keel using this other encounter in New Jersey and sort of tangentially connecting it to Injured Cold, and then other people latch onto it and are like, "Oh, see, he's been all over the country." Uh, yeah, that's what the perspective final part is about. But I got super distracted.
Isn't that fascinating though? And I just have to go back to like the one of the sighting of him. Wasn't he in a Ford Galaxy?
Oh yeah, something like that.
Yep. There's a reason why I have a 1965 Ford Galaxy.
It's a pretty sharp looking car.
Especially when I'm driving it and trying not to go over curbs and
Yeah.
things. I'll have to share a picture of that on Twitter of my cute little 65 Galaxy convertible. But I remember hearing that he was driving a Galaxy, and I just thought, yes, because those were old cop cars at the time.
Oh, interesting. I didn't see you're already sending me down other paths because that's super interesting that he'd be driving a cop car, essentially. That's interesting. Yeah, but I don't know. It's also just kind of funny that you're like, oh, this spaceman was driving a galaxy, you know?
But I mean, seriously, when I think about like, that, and that we say, oh my gosh, there's this blinking light that is a UFO that looks just like a plane. Or, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like how many, and then you've got people like Jacques Vallée again that will say, well, it's just that technology is one step ahead of what we are. We can, blah blah blah. And so
Yeah.
it's like, so it would make sense that it looks like a plane, but it's actually a
Mhm.
UFO. So in that, line of thinking or whatever that is, it's like, just, I don't know, it would make sense that he would be incognito,
Yeah.
looking like a
Oh,
guy driving a galaxy,
yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
not like a smoking dog.
Or like that horse that can do math equations. I forget what his name is. Is it
I totally missed
another urban legend?
that. Wow, was that in the National Enquirer?
Probably at some point.
Is that like a new
Oh
thing?
no,
Old?
that's probably like the 60s or 70s, I think.
Around the time of Snippy?
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't think the math equation horse got mutilated though, thankfully.
I don't know. We might as well just make our own story.
That's true.
This could be kind of fun and just see where things go. I don't know. It's so interesting. But so like, and it is interesting. I mean, what do you think? You mentioned John Keel and how, all of a sudden you've got the Mothman sightings and then people are linking things together. Like, go a little bit deeper into the John Keel thing and then kind of moving forward with that Men in Black and that whole
Yeah.
route.
Well, so I was recently in West Virginia with Emily of Weird Reads, who's in the comments somewhere. And we drove by a couple different locations that pop up in the Mothman prophecies, Silver Bridge, all the classics. And when we were going through like Woodrow Derenberger's hometown, it's honestly just shocking how like far away it is from Point Pleasant, and yet those events are linked. And I guess it must be because Parkersburg is like the closest population center. But I think there is some like spurious logic going on where you can be like, oh, Injured Colts showed up at the same time as Mothman. They must be connected. And I mean, I always kind of assumed that was just for like, like because it makes for a better story, but I was sort of shaken out of it even further, just like seeing the places. Yeah, I don't know where that thought was going, but
I
that's
like
where I
it
was.
though. Keep on going wherever that thought was going. I mean, and so like, was it overwhelming, underwhelming, creepy, like, because you know how sometimes you get,
Oh yeah.
like I went, I've been just all over doing trolloping around, but like going over to, I spent some time over in England and Ireland and things, and we would go to different haunted castles. I would drag my friends. Who am I kidding? And it's like you walk in these castles and everybody's telling you these stories, and you get that kind of moment, and then
Yeah.
reality sets in. But did you have any of that?
Yeah, so we drove through the TNT area, which is where the bulk of the Mothman sightings happened, and like at like night. So it was like it is like a super unsettling place at night. You're just so far away from civilization that it's just pitch black. There's trees covering the road. Um, I don't. It definitely seems prime for a Mothman sighting. Uh, we drove by where Woodrow Derenberger had his first encounter with Indrid Cold, and that is like the most nondescript strip of interstate highway that I think I've ever driven. And I find that just really fascinating, that that's where you had your encounter with an extraterrestrial, was right on the side of a highway very close to Parkersburg. Yeah, I don't know. It is interesting actually seeing these places in person, because I spend a lot of time reading, but I don't, I don't do that much like on the ground journalism. Yeah, it can sort of recontextualize things. I'm not. I don't know if it's actually settled anything in my head. It just makes it seem even more mundane that he met a guy on this mundane stretch of highway.
But it is interesting to actually go, to some of these places, and it's just, I mean, it can be, I guess, depending on, like how primed you are and things, and what space you're in, and in your life and your believing things. But it can be, it can be very like cool, and wow, this is cool. And even it is kind of cool, even if you don't believe in it. It's like, okay,
Oh yeah.
I mean, here's a patch of dirt, imagine Roswell, dead aliens, and of course that would, I'm not sure if I'd get excited too much about that, but I mean, it is interesting. Like driving on the periphery of Skinwalker Ranch is really nondescript, but it's interesting. But like I go out in the middle of, I love going on road trips, and just I love. I mean, Utah's such a beautiful place to go explore and things. And I remember driving the periphery of the Great Salt Lake, and there are all these, old rundown barns and homes and things that have been vacant for decades. And I just keep thinking, this is such a great, like, you could take any spot like this on the planet and turn it into something of, this mythical proportion.
Oh yeah. It is just crazy how you can change a place through like belief. Um, like would you say you did feel differently about like Skinwalker Ranch with all the like stories behind it, even if you don't
Absolutely.
necessarily believe it?
Yeah. I mean, I think back at that point in time, I mean, I'd grown up in Utah and heard about the ranch, for a long time. It was in the Deseret News, back in the 90s, which is a pretty, I'm not sure if it can be kind of there's some good journalism, and then some things that are a little questionable, like, the Skinwalker Ranch, the Haunted Ranch, the UFO Ranch, whatever it was when it first came out. But, you hear these tall tales and these stories, and you do, especially because I will admit, I love the paranormal and all of these things. I love the possibilities of not knowing and discovering new things. And so I would definitely, when I first went there, which was, oh my gosh, probably, I don't even know, like maybe 15 years ago. Time flies. I don't know. But, just being there, and I'll never forget. I don't know if I've actually talked about this story. I don't know if I went up with one of my friends. We were actually interviewing a group of family that I've been in contact with for a long time, that had different sightings over the years, alleged sightings over the years. And I'd interviewed 3 generations of them, which I'd done over the years with them, kept in touch. But, and so we, drove out to the gate in the middle of the night, but this is back in the Bigelow days. And, so there's the green, creepy gate that is decrepit, and it looks like every other gate here and there, but this is it. This is the place, man. And so we just get out of the car for a second, and then there's like this cute old dog that comes running out, and, I mean, it's like, that isn't menacing. I mean, seriously. And I'm just like, oh, cute doggy. And then, you could hear Oh boy, I do have footage of this somewhere, but that's another story. But then you can hear somebody, back there, get out of here, like in this like ridiculous voice. My God, I can't believe I'm sharing this, but I am, just because it's so ridiculous. But I mean, just hearing this person and seeing this dog and just thinking, wow, this is so awkward.
Yeah.
Really.
Well,
So there
hey,
you have it.
you got to see a cute dog out of it.
It was a very, very cute dog. So,
that can make any
and
situation better.
funny story
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
that I shouldn't admit publicly, but that's the way I roll. So there you go.
Yeah, but it was super interesting being in Point Pleasant too, because that place really has just like made its name on Mothman, and that's basically the only thing keeping it going at this point. Yeah, we even stayed in like the old Low Hotel, which is ancient and definitely haunted. I don't know. There's just something different in the air, even though I don't believe in any of this really. I've never actually had like a paranormal experience. I would say, and yet I still feel like I'm prone to being like, "Ooh, this is crazy," kind of thing.
You know what? I mean, honestly, there's something fun about it. Let's be real. It's just like, it's why we go to, haunted houses over Halloween, and there's just living on the edge. I don't know, that constant. Yeah. It's why we watch horror movies and different things like that. But so talk a little bit more about the Low Hotel.
So it was actually really nice. It's definitely old. But that's not to say it's a bad thing. We did hear like some kind of like old timey music at like 4 or 5 in the morning, but it wasn't like ghost music. It was like real music.
Oh dang!
And I think someone's like, my guess, being the total skeptic / cynic that I am, is that someone had the alarm clock radio set to something, and
That's just not.
there's like
not
no one in the
though.
room or something. Yeah, that isn't fun, no. But or the staff could have been trying to scare us. Like they could have been trying to be like, oh, we've got to keep up our reputation as a haunted hotel.
I mean, I'm telling you, I've firsthand experience that's the way it rolls.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think, and I've talked about this, since we're just sharing these stories, and thank you for letting me talk about this because it just brings back memories. But when I was over in Ireland and things, we had, I had plotted the course and we were going to stay here in this haunted castle and da 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 da. And it was with my girlfriends, and there was this place called Kennedy Castle, and I've talked about it on my show before. This is just so funny, but there was, the legend that there was a bride that threw herself off the top floor. I mean, it's like, okay, I mean, copy and paste and throwing the, whatever. And so we went to check in, and it's this beautiful, I mean, it's a castle. What else can you say? And we get there, and I'm like, I want to stay in this specific room, where the bride threw herself off and different things. And the people behind the desk, oh no. Are you sure? Because the people that stayed there last time, they left early. And I'm like, oh no, yeah, I am. Yes, that is me. I'm staying there and stuff. And so they're acting all, like, and, I get there, my girlfriend and I are staying in this hotel room, and there was this creepy little statue in the corner that just in and of itself, just get it out of my room. But it, was there. And so we had dinner, and my girlfriends went up to sleep, and the girlfriend that was sleeping with me was so creeped out that she went to stay with her friends. And so I'm up talking to the castle owner, and we're drinking good whiskey, Irish whiskey by the hearth. And he starts, okay, tell me about the ghosts. And he's like, well, I just have to say, the hotel was kind of going under. And so we might have embellished a few things. And I'm just like, seriously, dude, like what? You are blowing my, you know, you're ruining my little trip here. And so, but anyway, needless to say, I get the goods, and then I go up to sleep, and I'm trying to sleep in this room, and I'm just like, okay, even though I know that this is not true, it's like there's that creepy freaking statue right in the corner, and it's not working for me. And I'm like trying to turn it around. Let's put a coat over it, like whatever I need to do. And so I finally just said, forget it. It's like 4 a.m, and I walked down to go to my friend's room, and they're like these, the creaky castle floor stairs, and then there's this, get to their room, and there's this huge wood door, and I'm like trying to, guys, and the next morning I go down to the table, and sorry guys if you've heard the story before, but I love it. So I get down to the table, and my girlfriends are like white, and I literally thought one of my girlfriends was, I don't know what, needed some sort of paramedic. And she just said, I can't believe it. Last night we all of a sudden, like, heard this person trying to get in our room, and it just said, let me in. And I'm like, dude, that was me. But it was just one of those moments that was so hysterical. It just made me, obviously I'll never get over that, because everybody again was like so primed to have something happen, and it was just this debacle. But it was fun. So
Yeah. Well, that's good that you gave your friends the experience of a lifetime, even if that guy ruined it for you.
It was one for the memory books, clearly.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you had fun at the Low Hotel. Like, is this like? Tell me more about it, because now I'm getting in the mood. I need to go stay at a allegedly haunted house now.
Well, when we went to Point Pleasant, it was absolutely dead. It felt like we were the only people in the entire hotel, which is spooky, but also, Point Pleasant isn't exactly a happening place when it's not like the Mothman Festival or something like that. It's a very lovely town, but I will preface it with like very small, and it's very quiet, kind of thing. But the Low is like an old downtown hotel. It's a really beautiful place. I don't know why. I'm not trying to sell the Low Hotel. I'm not like guerrilla marketing or anything like that.
No, I'm bringing it up. I mean, it just sounds really interesting.
But yeah, it was nice. The people running it were lovely. Yeah, and I think they do have like ghost legends, but I gotta admit, I spent all my time reading the Mothman prophecies, so I'm not sure what the ghosts are. I guess every old hotel has a ghost story, though, huh?
I think they do, and that's kind of, it is interesting. It's I don't know. I think there's something fascinating about those old ghost stories, or new ghost stories that are just being remarketed, and rebranded, whatever. But definitely lends character to a place, and also it's a fun adventure to go stay in places like that. So I'm glad you had fun.
Yeah.
Where else did you guys go?
I'm glad you asked, because I was about to mention, we also went to the Gray Barker Archive in Clarksburg, West Virginia, which I would recommend a lot of people check out. The guy who runs it, David Huchin, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. But he's just a great guy. He's full of stories about Gray Barker, ufology, Jim Mosley, that whole crowd. And there's just like a wealth of material there that, it'd take it'd take years to mine everything in that archive. And uh, yeah, I just recommend it. I spent most of my time looking at Witcher Derenberger stuff, but I also noticed that they had uh, a bunch of like issues of Saucer Smear, uh, and obviously I want to go back because I'd read Saucer Smear from beginning to end if I had the capability to do so, but it's not exactly available currently.
You know what, though, I would think, because all of that's been digitized, and I'll ask Barry where you could find that,
Yeah,
because it has to be out there. Maybe even AFU has that digitized.
I think Isaac Coy mentioned something about it um, not that long ago, actually. So maybe that's in the works. Because I think all of James Mosley's stuff went, like his estate went to his daughter, but I'm not 100% sure. And I think David Huchin might have mentioned that as well. But I don't know. That's just like, I don't know. I find that a super important. Like, I'm someone who's interested more in like the people in ufology, and that's like all Saucer Smear is. It's just like a gossip rag, basically, and you're getting all the stories that aren't spread elsewhere.
Yeah, it's I have a full run of it here. So
Oh, do you?
it's yeah, I do. And it's like, dang, just when I thought today was a rough day and the UFO failed, well,
Yeah,
not so much. But it was a very colorful, yeah, it's very colorful,
yeah.
sure.
I guess I'll just come out and ask. Can you scan that entire thing? And no, I'm just
Well, I know that and Drew in chat is saying that AFU has that online. So
okay.
the full run should be online. And I mean, Barry probably did that 30 years ago,
Yeah,
so yeah, that's available. And I'll make sure
yeah.
that I will confirm everything and then send you a link and
Oh,
things
I'd really
because it is fun
appreciate
to
that.
read. Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
It is cool. And I'm like you. I mean, I'm interested. I mean, okay, I've yet to see a concrete, a case of a UFO. Like,
mhm.
but people, that is where I just find things so fascinating. The
Yeah,
dynamic, people, the politics, all of these crazy things that consume the world of ufology.
yeah, yeah. And from Saucer Smear, you can realize that that's been done since basically the inception. It's always been just a different cast of characters in each era, sort of jawing at each other and fighting the skeptics, and it's the same dance over and over again. But I gotta say, I kind of love the dance.
It is interesting. And have you ever been to a conference?
I actually haven't. I'm planning on going to. I think Is it called Michigan UFO Con?
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, I think we're gonna try to go to that one.
Is
Um,
that Deb and RJ?
I'm not 100% certain,
Okay.
but
I think that is, and I will say that I love if that is that's their thing. They are the two nicest people.
oh, I'm
So I
proud to hear that.
really had a great time. In fact, I spoke at that a few years ago, 2017, something.
Cool.
Yeah, so just very lovely.
Yeah.
So
I will say I haven't stuck my toe into the conference space.
you should go to
I don't,
Contact in the Desert. Oh yeah.
I don't know. I've heard about Contact in the Desert, and I'm kind of frightened of it. But I'm a bit of an introvert, is part of the problem. So I struggle to do the big events. But then I also just like like hearing the stories that come out after the facts, and then I'm like, maybe I should have gone, but it's never enough for me to be like, oh, buying my ticket for next year immediately. No, never done that.
Well, come on now. I mean, seriously, you need to get going. Get on that, get on the circuit. Go live a little. Listen to Linda Moulton Howe and Richard Dolan.
I'd go on the coast to coast cruise or whatever they had at one point. I don't know.
You would?
No, I'm kidding. But,
oh my God. I'm like, please, you would go out to sea with them? Oh, no. No.
I find the concept very funny. Yeah. I feel like you could get some good like Hunter S. Thompson journalism going on the coast to coast cruise. Just like, you could talk to somebody at the bar and it'd be the most bizarre conversation you ever had, kind of thing.
I would strongly say yes. And then you could, somebody could sell you some colloidal silver and, a couple guns, and you're stocking the bunker. And, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then probably a couple man girdles. They probably sell man girdles, like at the back of the UFO, rags and things. I always love looking, through them, because there's never, without a doubt, there is either like X-ray glasses. Those are the good things. They used to sell a lot, or like some fake guns, but then it's always a man girdle. There's always a dude in a man girdle, and it reminds me of like Shatner, because I really think that Shatner wore a man girdle in Star Trek. When you just think back on it.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Because just sort of picturing the posture.
Yep. Man girdle. That's hard for me to say about my secret crush for many years, but definitely have to say yes. That's pretty much what's happening.
That doesn't have to be a secret. It's William Shatner.
No, I know. It hasn't been a secret, but yeah. But it is funny, like looking at the back of those magazines. I have to say that I think that's better sometimes than the content, to look at the advertising, and you definitely know the demographic that you're working with here.
Oh, yeah.
65 to 75-year-old men.
Oh, yeah.
That, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I'm just having so much fun with you tonight, and it feels so good just to laugh and have a happy first of the New Year's shows. And
yeah, no, this has been really great. I definitely, I definitely like to razz on these people as much as I can. So I'm happy that this is a place where I can do that.
Definitely, I will say, and I mean, I have to make fun of myself too. I mean, it's like you have to have some levity when it comes to these things. And then when you see kind of like what you would see at a conference, some conferences, not all conferences. Michael, I know that you put on your conference. I'd love to come back and see it sometime. And I know you do great stuff. So, but there are specific conferences, and I did go to Contact in the Desert, but this was actually when it was out in the desert, and that was very hot and dirty, but I had a kick. I was there with one of my dear friends, and Nick Redfern was there, who's a friend of mine, and we just had a blast. But it's like the same. They need some fresh faces, and preferably ones that haven't been to the same plastic surgeon.
Yeah. I mean, it is pretty funny that, I'm not that old, but like I was a kid decades ago at this point, and I'm still hearing from the same ufologists.
The case of reanimation with Linda Moulton Howe.
Yeah, I will say I do like Linda's sense of style, though. Maybe not her plastic surgeon, but her sense of style I can vibe with. I can see that you don't
Hang
agree.
on, hang on. I'm trying to. I mean, I granted I love cats, so I
Yeah.
totally dig the cats that she has and things.
Hmm.
I yeah, yeah. I and yeah. I mean, she's tried very hard over the years.
Yeah. Yeah. At the same time, do you feel kind of bad for Linda? Just because it does seem like she was on the correct path. Well, I say that, but that was like decades and decades ago now, and she hasn't corrected course. But I don't know. It kind of makes me sad in a way. Um, she still talks about like her regional Emmy, and that was like Linda. That was so far back at this point that you're on to completely new territory now. Uh,
I mean, I too hang on to my, seventh grade tennis trophy. I can understand the need to. Yes, I won singles at the
yeah,
country club. I mean, but regional Emmy is different. I admit it, but it is. You do look at. I mean, and this brings up a really great question, and so thank you for that. But I think you look at some of these people, and are they victims of being put into this little echo chamber
hmm,
where they're not really getting good feedback?
hmm,
Are they willing participants, knowing that they're promoting a grift
yeah,
and they can get $10,000 at a speaking engagement and so on and so on. I mean, it's hard to know what is like. It's hard to know whether these people are active grifters, knowing grifters,
yeah.
or if they've just kind of fallen into that. But
Well, with Linda's case, it's especially difficult because she was part of the whole, um, like Benowitz affair, Doty, and she bought into it wholeheartedly. And whereas for some people that would ruin you financially, for her it's turned into a bit of a cash cow. Uh, so she's obviously seen no reason to change her mind, even though it's admitted disinformation. Uh, yeah, I mean, I guess if you throw away one confidential source, then you have to throw away your other 30 confidential sources that are all saying different shades of nonsense.
and I mean, well, I don't know. I mean, you can see for a moment like how you can fall into these games that
Mhm.
this group of people play. I mean, they are like they make a very concerted effort to pull people in. Oh, hey, look, there's somebody that could be potentially vulnerable, and let's make sure that we push as much nonsense down their way as we can. And I saw that firsthand with Eric Davis and with
Mm.
that whole crowd. It was like, we've
Yeah.
got this narrative, and even though like it really actually the story's changed from 10 years ago, because I can't remember what I said back then, but you've got people that are looking for others in the UFO sphere to be mouthpieces and to promote their their messaging. And Linda, I think over the years has gone from relatively questionable to like way out there, like even kind of this almost reminds you like the Corey Good
Oh
kind
yeah.
of stuff. And it's, in my opinion, there's something bordering on. I mean, it's extremely cultish, and it can be
Mhm.
a little dangerous when you're promoting that type of veiled white supremacy,
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. I think it was Emily who pointed me to her having on what's her face? Marina Sarin.
Well, that's not so veiled. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like kind of right in your face.
And Linda's just like, oh, this all sounds good to me. Yeah.
Well, and
But,
nothing can ever, top the picture of Chris Mellon. And
oh, yeah. Oh, I completely forgot about that.
that's always good. Well, I'll never forget about that. Yeah, that was a she. Is that girl around still?
That's a good question. I haven't seen anything. I'm hope maybe she got bullied too much or something. But honestly, that's fine.
I mean, maybe she just. No, I'm not going to say
Well,
it.
maybe she saw the light path and completely changed her views on everything and is now living a happy life without the racism.
One could dare to dream. I always found really disturbing. Yeah, I'll be praying later, making a donation to whatever church fund. But I think not the Mormons, mind you, not paying my tithing. But the one thing that was very concerning to me about her, well, one of the many things, is that she looked so childlike.
Mm-hmm.
And that was her goal, to look like a younger person. I found that very
trying to look like a Zoomer Twitch streamer, and I guess that's kind of what she did. Was she a streamer?
I don't know. What does that even mean? I'm too old.
Well, there was I think she had a YouTube channel. I don't know. Not a Marina.
YouTube. I thought it was OnlyFans.
Marina Sarin did.
I thought that's the word on the street that I'd heard. I'm gonna edit this out later, but I
didn't hear that, but I mean, I wouldn't be super duper shocked, I guess, would be how I would put it. Yeah. I don't know. That seems a bit removed from your crypto Nazi alien stuff. Does that get into these?
I don't. Well, I mean, I never say never. I don't spend any time anywhere in that sphere, but maybe it's just.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to go from here. Except on to the next topic.
I'm completely fine with that.
Okay. Yes. I mean, Happy New Year, folks. So let's talk about Wendell Stevens, because that is going from joyful and happy to a topic, a person that was very questionable, and in my opinion, it is very shocking to watch the way people support and still carry on that kind of stuff. In fact, I was Googling today Wendell Stevens and just trying to find things, and there is an art dealer that is selling his lithographs. Oh. One of them is going for $35,000.
God.
Another one for 15. And I just thought, should I call this art gallery and just?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that was just absolutely shocking to me. I sent that to Barry Greenwood, and he's just like, it was crazy. But talk a little bit about Wendell Stevens, and then also where you have gone with your blog posts.
So I was it was through one of your episodes, Martin Cannon, that I was sort of put on to the fact that Stevens was a pedophile and also basically a Nazi, to put it bluntly. And I sort of did some of my own reading on it. I actually had someone email in that, well, I can't say much on it, but they knew of an archive that had Wendell Stevens materials, and there was like all sorts of like white supremacist literature, like militia movement literature, um, and yeah, I find it baffling that he's still respected in any sense, because he was a horrific child abuser. Um,
Convicted. Yep.
yeah, convicted, and he got out way too soon, in my opinion. That was another thing that came up in Jacques Vallée's diaries, was that I can't remember which three. I think it must have been Pudov. Well, no, I won't. I'm not going to name names because I don't remember exactly who went to visit him in prison. Um, but he was still engaging with like members of like the UFO culture while he was in jail for, you know, child sex crimes, essentially. Uh, and you know, that's like not brought up by any of these people. And if they do bring it up, they think it's like the CIA put him in there on trumped up charges or something. Um, and it's just it's ludicrous to me. Um, yeah, I guess that's where I'd put it. Uh, but yeah, your episode with Martin gets into like some real weird resonances that Stevens was eventually involved in. Because I think Martin goes into how he was eventually in like the Commander Hatton cult. Uh, just, you know, a whole bunch of messy UFO nonsense, and somehow the guy is, I don't know, it's like, what will it take for him to like be buried and, you know, criticized? Uh, yeah.
And I have to say that, I mean, I thank you for shining a light on that. That is that is something that's been shocking to me, to see the way, you know, and I guess this is such a loose subject, and people don't have, you know, they don't hold the people that are the mouthpieces of the community to high standards,
Mhm.
and ask, okay, why are you supporting this fellow? Why is he coming to your conference? Why are we visiting him in prison? You know, why does this person have neo-Nazi literature? You know, like,
Mhm.
what is that? And I think that that's more, unfortunately, more common with
Yeah.
researchers. And I will say that it is concerning to me from an archivist point of view, that archives are getting, I mean, they're getting pushed into specific places, and you know what is going to be coming out about the life and the work of specific people who have had so much influence in the UFO world.
Yeah.
My feeling is there is a lot to hide with some of these people, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
an important thing to be talked about. You know, I mean, you've got to look at the whole person. You know, even I know that I think Barry Greenwood has mentioned, and Jan Aldrich too, that when they were looking for Larry Fawcett's stuff, that he had a lot of things that were removed from his holdings, I think by the Roswell Museum, if I'm not mistaken, and that there were undertones of this type of stuff
Mm.
as well. And so, you know, at what point do we ask for you know, the whole truth? This isn't just about a UFO story. You have to look at the person who's been promoting a UFO story for
Yeah.
decades.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why I'm sort of interested in the people behind this stuff, is because a lot of times in the UFO space, it's like, oh, look at his credentials, look at he was formerly in the military, and it's like these people aren't that one dimensional. Um,
And check their
Yeah.
credentials. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, anybody can say they were A, B, C, and D in the military. I mean, really?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and what does that even mean? Do you even know your military term? I mean, it's just like,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that Stevens also brings up another like interesting person who I've been meaning to look more into is Robert O. Dean, the former NATO command who said that they witnessed I can't remember if it was a craft saucer or recovered saucer. You know, insert crash recovery story here kind of thing. He was actually uh, next door neighbors with Wendell Stevens in Tucson, and they seem like good buddies. And I have to wonder, what did Robert Dean also know about these proclivities? Just yeah, it's it's curious that this kind of stuff gets buried. When at the same time, well, it's another one of those things that's only mentioned by word of mouth. Like I think Martin was the first person I heard it from, uh, and that was word of mouth on one of your shows. Uh, um, yeah,
it's amazing. And thank you, by the way, for posting the show on your blog. When that I was looking at that today.
oh
Now
yeah,
that I'm a new subscriber, yes.
yeah.
But
Well, thank you
I
for that.
I will say that to me, as much as we've had so much fun this evening, and I love that, and I think I need that, and we all need that. But when you start getting into these really serious topics, it is alarming to me that so many people in this subject just turn a blind eye. And that
Yeah,
really speaks volumes of their character. And it's the same thing for, I mean, this subject, I believe you can be groomed, you can be manipulated, you
oh
can be
yeah,
vulnerable. I look at, some of the people that have gone to conferences and have said that they've had abduction experiences and how easily it is to manipulate good intentioned people. And it can be a real I think a place that things can happen that are not in people's best interests. And when you have people like Wendell Stevens that is being held in high regard, and that should be your first warning sign that there's something really, really wrong.
yeah, yeah. Well, when you get to the point where you have to be like, oh, the story is more important than any of this other stuff in the background. It's like, A, I need more evidence the story is true. B, even if it was true, is it really worth burying these kinds of things? To me, the answer is usually no. But, uh, you know,
I think that you are onto something with your looking at his neighbor.
yeah. Well, I feel like I've heard that mentioned in like one place, and I then after hearing that, I noticed that, oh, they're in a lot of UFO documentaries together, sometimes even sitting by one another. Um, I kind of just want to know more about that relationship, more about Dean in general, because like the NATO command claims are pretty lofty, and I'd like to know if that was true.
You know what I really, and I'm just got an idea here that I need to bring on, somebody that is in the military and that can really explain how to vet another individual who
Yeah,
is in the military, because you can make all sorts of claims, and if people aren't in in the military and don't have an idea of what to look for in different branches and specific things, then you could be completely fooled by some lofty resume and things. And I think that might be,
yeah,
that's a good thing I'll have to focus on a little bit. But
yeah.
it's amazing. And I can see Jack in here just bringing up, and good night, Rachel. Nice to see you here. But about Bosco.
Okay. Uh, that's sort of my big focus for the past. Oh man, it's been probably 2 or 3 years at this point. Um, this is covered in Mark Pilkington's Mirage Men, but Bosco Nedeljkovic was a guy who claimed to UFO researcher Rich Reynolds that the Villas Boas abduction, along with several others, were CIA operations. And I found that claim compelling. I can't say that, yes, I 100% believe it, but I wanted to know more about uh, Bosco, the guy claiming it. And that's a whole, like, there's so many like branching pathways when you look into Bosco Nedeljkovic's background. He was an interpreter for the uh, Army Defense College, the War College in DC. So he did have like legitimate interactions with just a broad swath of the State Department, the military, um, even like different nations, military and political leaders. But he was also like a utopian, um, sort of like I don't want to call him a hippie, but sort of a lot of like green revolution sort of thinking, and he tried promoting that through just like endless correspondence to different people. Um, sorry, I feel like I go on a rant with Bosco every time he's brought up, but he's one of the most interesting characters I've ever encountered. Uh, because as you notice, I say all this, and it has very little to do with like the Villas Boas abduction or UFOs in general, and that's what I find compelling, because it doesn't seem like he had much of an interest in UFOs at all, which makes his claims all the more interesting if true. Um, yeah, I've got a whole series on it. I could literally never do it justice just talking about it. I feel like I have to have sections and citations, and because a lot of it, uh, I don't know. I almost feel like I sound like a crazy person talking about it in real life.
No, it's a person that knows what they've done because, or talking about because they've done great research.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but there's also just so much that I almost feel like I do like word salad. I know it's not word salad to me, but it's like this, and it's, to someone else, it's like, oh, there's so much coming at me right now.
But it is fascinating, and I know, like, I mean, sometimes when I read, like, Jack has done so much over the years, and just reading the UFO trail and going back, it's like whoa, I mean, it can be
Yeah,
overwhelming, but it's like, okay, this is he's so good at putting things together and
yeah,
adding footnotes and just it's an adventure
oh
to
yeah,
me, and I feel like that when I read your work as well. I mean, it's really, I love digging in to things like this, and I think it's really important for people to look at things like that because it is so layered.
yeah. Well, I appreciate that. It I didn't really plan on writing a Substack. I was just like unemployed at one point, and it's like, oh, I'll do this because it'll be fun. And now I still do like basically a post every week, and still really enjoy it. Yeah, and I feel like it's good for the sort of structure I wind up having, which is I learn a little about something, I write about it. I learn more about something, I write about it. It kind of gives you a hint of just how like the research process goes, even. Um, and I feel like you'd mentioned the UFO trail. I'm constantly referring to Jack's old work as well, because there's hardly a topic I'll cover where uh, I can Google it and be like, oh, Jack's written something about this, and it'll be the best I've read on the subject that thus far. That happened with the Gulf Breeze 6. That hadn't been covered well, basically anywhere, and Jack's coverage of it was literally the best I could find online.
I agree. I mean, and I'm sure, and he's in chat, so I'm sure he will appreciate that as
Mhm.
well. Jack is one of the most humble human beings I've ever met.
Yeah.
And just really, I have to just give him props because as a research partner, he has been just phenomenal to work with. And it's
Mhm.
fun, like for you to, I mean, I'm sure that you and Emily can, I mean, you guys bounce ideas off of each other, you and other people in the topic. It's so important to have somebody like that you can share ideas with. And then it's like, oh, a light goes on. Oh, wait a minute. I've been looking down this path, and then this is fitting with this. And it's just such a cool process to have colleagues and friends in this topic that you can build your research, on. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So I love
No,
what I,
no, I've loved eventually finding this little niche of like the UFO world, uh, where it is like, I like the kind of thinking that's like occurring between people here. Um, it seems way more productive, way more critical. Like, also it's still fun too. Like I feel like people think once you become a little more skeptical, it's no longer fun. But I don't think that's true.
I think it's, for me, I will say there's been a lot of not fun periods for me just because of, all the Skinwalker stuff and things.
Yeah,
That was a very negative, that was that I was really happy to have influences in my life and people in that were researching the topic, people like Jack, Barry, friends like that have been through that kind of thing, just in a different way, obviously. But
yeah,
so it was good to have that and remind me to pull myself back and say, wait a minute, aside from this really nasty group of people with an agenda, like there are so many things to love about this. Like the first reason, like for me, I loved the paranormal and UFOs. It's like the possibilities are limitless, and
mm,
that's such a special part in each of us to have that glimmer of hope and being adventurous. And even if we learn that things aren't necessarily the way we thought that they were, there's still that discovery process that is a really empowering
yeah,
process.
yeah.
So I'm happy that you still find that joy in that. And I
Yeah.
want nothing more than for everybody to always have a really positive, joyful, grounded experience in this topic, and to steer clear from who we're telling you to steer clear from.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of the joy comes from specifically communities like this, like the people that watch your show. Um, it's there's shared research interests, there's bouncing ideas, there's shenanigans every once in a while. Uh, you know, it's a good time. Alternative to the UFO Twitter hive mind.
Yeah, do you still deal with that anymore?
Well, I get sent tweets a lot, but I've muted or blocked a lot of accounts just because I was tired of seeing them. It's like nothing personal. primarily. Uh, but I still wind up getting sent things and seeing things um, against my will. No, I'm just. It's a mixture of both.
It's, I really had to kind of pull myself, like I dabbled in that for like 2 days. And it was like when I figured out that I was the, target du jour, I'm like, yeah, no, that's not good for my,
Yeah,
it's just not good for me as a person, and it's not productive. And also, I don't even know who any of these people are. Really, let's be
yeah.
real. If it's one angry, lonely guy pretending to be 20, if it's Richard Butt, if it's, who knows who we've got, going on today. And
Is Richard Butt a real person, or is that a pseudonym?
well, I think that's his pseudonym, but I don't know, guys, if you are following any of this on, if you guys follow any of the UFO Twitter stuff, I've heard different, ideas of who this mystery Butt is.
Mr. Butt.
Mystery Butt. Who is the Mr. Butt? Oh, Tom X is Richard Butt. I don't know. What do we sock puppet? Well, he is a sock puppet. But
I
who's
have
sock
never
puppet?
encountered Richard Butt, so I'm getting the feeling that that's a good thing.
It is an incredibly good thing. I think the last time I checked, it was either Elizondo or it's Grush or it's
Mm,
who knows who it is.
yeah.
Basement boy. Whatever. Not that being in a basement bad with when you're But Owen Simon's just saying some people think Butt is Grush, but Simon, who give us your thought. This is fun. I should get my Ouija board out and the magic 8 ball. Any thoughts?
Decide who Mr. Butt is. Based on that pseudonym, I have no idea.
Yeah, the butt person is a sock puppet account. Yes, it is.
Interesting.
That's, I mean, a day in the life of UFO Twitter. There you go. How exciting is this? Yes, figuring out who Mr. Butt is.
Well, yeah, the drama is a little fun though. I don't know. I like to take like a big step back, an outsider perspective, and then it's a little more fun and interesting than if you're like I don't want to argue with Mr. Butt, but I will watch other people argue with Mr. Butt in enjoy, I guess would be how I'd put it.
You have great restraint, Jedi Master.
Yeah, well, I can usually restrain myself on Twitter. There's occasions where I'll just see something and then rapid fire something off, and then it never goes well. So I've tried to just completely stop doing that.
Yes, they should have like courses for Twitter, patience, like restraint. I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay, now go to your corner, put your little hat on, and breathe deeply for 2 days, and then get back before you hit that post. That would be good. Yeah, Twitter's a very you could be very guttural, just kind of very primitive, primal,
yeah.
special. Just ask Elon Musk. He wouldn't know anything about that.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess I'm calling it the wrong thing. I always forget to call it
Oh yeah.
X or whatever. Doesn't roll off the tongue that well.
Nope. But if only I had. What do you? I'm just. This is like so random. But what else is new for the show tonight? But I mean, what do you think of his space program?
Oh, I think he's still years away from anything resembling like Mars travel that he said would be coming in 2 years, like 10 years ago. Uh, yeah. Uh, I know he's getting rockets off. I see a crash every once in a while. Uh, and I know the DoD is funding them. I don't know. What does chat think of Elon Musk?
I just
Oh,
had to have a little inhaler
that's
moment.
okay.
This, yeah, I made it pretty good through the show, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa. But anyway, so yeah, Elon's a grifter. He's rich. Okay, we're talking now, but Simon says, oh, you thought it was Cahill. Yeah, I don't know.
There
It's
was
mystery.
that rumor that sorry, I've got sirens. Hope
It
that's
adds to the
not
dramatic
audible.
effect.
I remember Pasulka tweeting about Timothy Taylor being Elon Musk's handler or something like that. I don't know if there's any truth to that. That Timothy Taylor guy seems like he spins a lot of yarns. But that's like the only connection to the UFO space I can think of with Elon, apart from his like pretty milquetoast takes about David Grush or something, you know.
Well, it's an interesting time.
Yeah.
And luckily I'm spending less and less on Twitter and things, but I just want to say this is actually, I've had a really fun conversation with you
Yeah,
tonight.
I've really enjoyed it.
We need to do this more often and get Emily on the show and Jack and Martin,
Okay.
do like the whole gang and just have fun and talk about some serious subjects. But it is really, for me, it is really refreshing and very needed to find people like you in the subject that are doing good work and that will teach other people. You have followers and people that are paying attention to what you're doing, and that is so needed because we really need to almost have like a counterculture to that nonsense.
Yeah.
So
Well, I really appreciate that, and I've had a really fun time. Yeah, it's been good.
yeah, thank you. And so, I mean, just give like, so you Getting Spooked
Oh
is
yeah.
your wonderful Substack. And so your last thing, and we didn't even talk about Alien or Betty and Barney Hill. So
Yeah.
that definitely means you're going to have to come back.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
rest up and see your therapist, whatever. I'm just kidding. I'm not saying that you've got one. Never mind. I'm just saying because the show's been, never mind. Anyway, thank you so much and have a wonderful, happy new year. And
You
I'll be sure
too.
to check out your blog and follow you, and then we'll touch base.
Yeah. Thanks again for having me, and hope you feel better.
Hey, well, thank you. I'm going to go breathe some steam and yeah. Anyway, so thank you. But take care.
You too.
All right. Thank you. All right, you guys, thanks so much for joining the show. I just have to say that I think Tanner is awesome, and you've got to go to Getting Spooked and make sure you subscribe and follow his work. It is, like I was just telling him, it's so refreshing to find people that are dedicated, that enjoy the subject, that want to do good work. And I love finding and helping to create a community out here. This is wonderful. I want to thank all of you guys in chat for being here, being thoughtful and respectful, intelligent, grounded, and funny. You guys, you make me laugh. Don't think I'm not paying attention to your comments in chat, but I am. I'm trying to, double task. But I want to thank Mario. Give Mario my love. I want to thank all of you guys, and just know that you mean the world to me. Also, thanks, Jack Brewer. Make sure you go to expandingfrontiersresearch.org to check out our latest blog on our little FOIA requests and things. So that's a good time. So check it out. Make sure you guys stay safe. And next Friday, I will be here with Greg Bishop. So I will look forward to that. And we've got some good guests for the rest of the year. Who am I kidding? For the next month, for January. Let's start next week. Okay, you guys, peace out. Thank you for liking, subscribing, sharing. Thank you, Tanner. And I will catch you guys next week.